Hello everyone, subscribe to my channel to not miss new trending manhwa.
Now, let's meet our hero's name was Kim Jang-chul. He was an ordinary Korean student, at least he used to be. Yesterday, out of the blue, he became the Demon King Kratos. It's the last boss villain in his favorite game. The ultimate goal of the game was to awaken an ancient hero from a magical sleep. Let's start in order and go deeper into the story. Counselor Zephyros of the 15th level came to the boss and reported the readiness for war. They fought demons of their own kind and had to feed on them. Evil fate had settled their people in a parched desert and they needed to build a great empire. All the warriors gathered to hear the pre-fight admonition. Kratos addressed them and ordered them to prevent war, and from now on they would not fight, but would start cultivating the land. The demons were shocked by his statement, but if war broke out, the player character named Elderly Kimchi level 9990 would definitely wipe them out. Transferring the time when he was an ordinary man, he graduated from the Agricultural Institute of Korea, hoping to become a rich businessman in the future, because he was a genius in his field, because all the professors asked him to do their work on a permanent basis, and soon he became a blanket, which is pulled in all directions, and in the end, he burned out. They got all the credit for his work, and inside he was angry and wanted to kill them. To cool down a little he needed dopamine, which he got only in computer games. It was a difficult game to play because no one had ever gotten past the 18th level. He desperately needed a feeling of success, so he immersed himself in the game for days without sleep. So he became the first player in the world to pass 19 levels. He was happy and moved on because the 20th level was a hell of a lot harder and he needed to level up. In the game, the maximum level of a character was 9,999. He had 9 levels less, so it should be enough because he had been playing this game for years. As he began the 20th level, his spirit began to emerge from his body, moving into the TV set as if into the netherworld. But our character was quite clever and realized that his body has a blue tint, which means that if he falls he will not break because he does not have a physical form. He saw a tower of life like in the Blood Paladin game. It was a paladin's tomb, and he realized that he was going into the body of his character, an elderly Kimchi who was almost at maximum level. When he came face to face with his character, he was swept in the other direction, straight into the body of the Demon King. And now he was going crazy because he couldn't get into the elderly Kimchi of the strongest being in this universe. Zephyros saw his despair and thought he had chickened out and stopped the attack, giving up his position. His warriors began to discuss the overthrow of power and wanted to divide it among themselves, since Kratos also became king when he blew off the head of the previous king. But they thought if they were wrong about his strength, they would not be able to defeat him, or at least 2 of the 4 would die. Then they decided to find proof that he was weakened and if they would kill him. Meanwhile, Zephyros came to the king and reported that the morale of the soldiers had fallen, and that the 4 generals were in a rage, plotting how to defeat him. The king could not show his weakness in front of them and wondered if he could actually go to war against the humans. Zephyros also showed him the video the general had given him from the tomb. In this video, the elderly Kimchi really piled on all the enemies in his path who begged for mercy. Then the king became afraid because the elderly Kimchi was like a maniac and should not leave the castle. If he stays, he'll be killed by 4 generals, and if he goes to war on the human world, the elderly Kimchi will kick his ass and kill him. From these thoughts he cried and did not understand why fate threw him into this world. He just wanted to survive. But it was still necessary to solve the problem with food and calm the demons, so he rose from the throne and went to look for land for cultivation. Zephyros was confused as he stood up from his throne and leaned away from him and said, "I'm sorry, I have to go," but he was usually proud and rude. Zephyros was loyal to the Demon King in the game. He appeared only once before the battle with the Demon King to protect him, but now he provokes and incites the king. He was a pain in the ass and he wasn't afraid of the king, So without a word, Zephyros began his story of the past, when previous kings had tried to cultivate their desolate lands, and their attempts were in vain because the land was very arid, but the king knew and believed that with his abilities, he could make the land yield crops. The king bent down and picked up the earth with his hands and started eating it like a bum. Meanwhile, Zephyros has recorded these actions in the king's chronology, for it is his duty to do so. But not everything is so funny. He analyzed the soil and realized that there were no nutrients and even less nitrogen. Nitrogen is a vital element for plants, although it is available in the air. Plants can't absorb it from the air. Then he thought that he could saturate the soil with nitrogen through lightning. Under the action of high-voltage nitrite, nitrogen is obtained. Falling drops absorb it and carry it into the soil. And the demon lord's strongest ability was the bloody lightning strike. This explosion of blood droplets using lightning was perfect for the idea of making the earth fertile. He started to fertilize the land, and as he began his move, he suddenly felt a terrible pain, and sounds came from the general's him. Zephyros saw this and told him that he had become weak. Then the demon lord decided to finish the job, and no matter the consequences, it was better to die from this than from their hands. After casting the spell, a sea of blood erupted in the area, like a sea, just a small puddle. Grimacing in pain, he heard the voice of one of generals behind him, asking about the king's health. They stood behind him smirking, that the demon king had actually grown weak, and prepared to kill him. He turned around and shouted bastards at them. But would they really kill him? In the meantime, the character elderly Kimchi awakened and remembered little of his past lives, for there were more than 10 of them, and now he was drawn in this direction with a sense of duty, but on the way it disappeared and no longer says anything. He did not understand what is now his raison d'etre. Returning to the scene of the event, in front of him stood bloodthirsty generals trying to kill the Lord, saying that the demon lord can only be the strongest. And Krotos couldn't even use his spells, but even so he scared them a little. His body trembled. Yet could he defeat them all at once? But when he turned back, he saw his cowardly allies hiding behind a tree. He looked at them in bewilderment, and they said they would just look at him and help him if necessary. Those sneaky bastards, he thought, but they were demons. What else did he expect from them? Zephyros started the fight immediately and reminded that according to the tradition of demons, the duel lasts until someone dies and there is no chance to surrender. And so they looked at each other in the face. One thought that there was no need to be afraid, and the demon king did not understand what to do, and in his head was empty. I mean, he's strong, but he's not so strong that he's omnipotent. The demon launched the first blow, and the Lord realized that it would be a stabbing blow or a swipe, and he would never be able to dodge it. But suddenly he ducked and noticed that his left leg went forward, so now it's 100% stabbing blow. His movements were exactly the same as in the game. The demons watched the fight with curiosity, and then the Lord wondered why the movements not arbitrary, but the same as in the game. At the first meeting with Asura, he was shocked, because he was agile and had a wide range of attacks, but after losing 1,000 times in the game, this character, he still defeated him. In subsequent passes, he has already led him by the nose, running around him and throwing punches, so he decided to wear him down by dodging punches so that he wouldn't even touch him. The demon's blood ran cold at the sight of him dodging punches. It's like he's just mocking Asura and his weakness. It wouldn't have helped to kill him, but he had a great idea that everything in this world is like a game. And then he realized the basic rule of this world and received a notice, just like they do in manhwa. As a reward for the notion of peace, he was given some of the functionality of the main character. With the enchantment function, he could finally use his spells. Without thinking long, I immediately used blood lightning on Asura. I finally got the chance to respond with a decent attack. The demons watched in surprise and began to support their lord, cheering his name. Looking at Asura, the lord was shocked that he was still alive, because in the game, she killed with one time, But this wretch also regenerates and immediately struck him a second blow. The demons noticed that he strikes, but such a force that he did not die in more pain, but the Lord could not kill him for another reason: he did not understand how to do it. There was another notification that the Azurat was naked and he could take his equipment, but why would he need to know that he was naked? Nothing has changed in the inventory and there are no new items, but it is better to deal with Azurat first. Lord is not strong enough to kill him. And the thought came to him that he could still cast a spell on him and continue to strike him with bloody lightning, so that the soil is saturated with enough nitrogen, and the demons won't get in the way because they're afraid of him. He turned to Sergi and asked her to bind Azurat tighter. She thought she was about to humiliate them both. The first step was to make a lightning rod, and in the meantime, the immortal Azurith had fully recovered and was screaming about the Lord's weakness because he couldn't even kill him. But the Lord was up to something else and began to strike him with bloody lightning. The lightning will saturate the soil with nitrogen from the air, so he asked Hartok to cover it with a fog so thick it would drip. Hartok thought it would be more painful to torture Azurith this way and began to summon the mist. Now it was done, and the Lord began to strike him again and again with his lightning bolts. As he whipped it with blows, thought of fertilizing this soil very fertile, and anticipated how he would harvest from it. And so for hours he beat him over and over again. Meanwhile the ground was already saturated with nitrogen, and the next step was to improve the soil, as the ground was hard and he needed to saturate it from within, so he needed to create a big pile of shit, smelly and brown. Demons stood in bewilderment why he shit and decided that so he wants to not only mock the assert, but also to smear him in feces. Let's transfer to our wandering character, who was walking along the forest paths and heard a cry for help. He looked behind the bushes and saw two boys being attacked by goblins. He looked behind the bushes and saw two guys being attacked by goblins. Our character asked not to be disturbed, but he looked awfully strange. When he saw the wounded man, he lifted him onto his shoulder and they set off on their journey. They were led by a servant named Jael Frontera, and on his shoulder was Mr. Ravage Azrahan. Along the way, Ravage asked the stranger about who he was and where he came from, but our character had to find out for himself, as he didn't have an answer in his head either. Meanwhile, the demons sat in the castle and pondered where they could get shit. They thought it was a disgusting thing to do, like demons looking for shit. They didn't want to give away their excrement because they considered it a low deed, so they decided to squeeze them out of the lower-ranking demons. And so all the palace guards went to torture the demons in their homes, making them poop in front of them. But it didn't work, because who can shit when they're looking at you? Then Lord Hartok grabbed him by the neck and decided to stab him in the stomach, but the bulky man stopped him, saying it would do no good. Hartok thought it was a clever statement and let the poor man go. And then he offered to feed the meat of the bully to get shit. The bully did not like the statement and started a fight. But Kratos stopped them and explained that not only demons can shit but also a bunch of other creatures, and the feces of the starving are of no value. He needs fertile manure. Then he explained that he needed it to fertilize the soil. In the real world, compost made of sawdust, weeds, soil, eggshells, and chicken manure is used as fertilizer. It was all but eggshells and chicken droppings. Then Kratos asked for a map of his lands. It was the same as in the game, and Lord knew where the demonic seagulls live. In the game, they are found in all lands, which means they make their sustenance in the human world and consume a lot of useful substances. And in the land of demons, they defecate and lay eggs. Zephyros understood the Lord's plan, and he noticed that the rocks there are slippery and there is nothing to hold on to, and the sea waves will smash him against the same rock. The Lord, realizing this, said he could do it and would do it. Let's move to the rocks. Since ancient times many people have tried to hunt for seagulls, but nothing has worked out, and now we will watch another attempt. Lord said he would climb up and pick up a bag of eggshell droppings and dump. And if his plan works, everyone will be fed and satisfied, including the lower-ranking demons, who ate nothing at all. Standing in front of the rocks, he thought about the fact that he had already succeeded in the game to climb this mountain. Through hundreds of deaths, he found a way to climb without difficulty, and finally he succeeded. All he had to do was undress the character and leave him without underwear. The demons looked at him as if he was a freak. Meanwhile, he fell into the rock like a texture. Then he had to turn on his axis, and the demon girl could not look at it, then put everything on, turn around and take it off again. After doing it over and over again, he still manages to climb to the top. The demon called Baal decided to go help his lord and jumped on the rock without thinking. The lord saw it and ran to save him. He was so heavy it was like tearing his arm, but he did not understand why he was trying to save him. He was one of the generals who wanted to kill him, and there was no reason to save him. He remembered a moment in real life when a professor would not let a dumb student pass a paper, who was always asking for help, because Zhang would listen to the professor and help him. But he was afraid of jeopardizing his status in front of the professors and rejected the offer to help him. Then he thought that maybe if he helped the poor freshman at that moment and risked what he had, he would be remembered with a happy smile on his face. So he decided to save Baal and threw him as hard as he could up the cliff. When he landed on top, Baal was surprised, because he shouldn't have done it because of the value of his broken arm, but the Lord said that this pain was nothing compared to the pain of betrayal, the pain of regret. Remembering the crying kid in his head, he apologized for that rejection. Meanwhile, a notification came from the game that the body had not adapted to the body of the demon king Kratos, but he did his best, as a result of which he received the heartfelt gratitude of his general Baal. In honor of this achievement, the system gives the ability to receive large point bonuses when he makes his subjects happy. Thus he inaugurated the Happy Point system. Each soldier in his army who is fed enough will give him 1 experience point. For these points he can increase the statistics of the character. He had only used 20% of the Demon Lord's strength, but by increasing his stats, he would be able to reach 100% of Kratos' strength. Then he tried to increase his stamina by 10%, but it didn't work as he needed 50 experience points. It was very expensive to raise his level, but if he developed a farming system and harvested crops, he could earn a large amount of experience points. Then he will be stronger and will be able to survive, and also to collect the gratitude. It is quite pleasant, said Kratos, smiling wryly, raising the shell above his head. He said he had collected the shit and was about to drop it and warn them to make sure they caught him. The generals were shocked at what they heard. Before they could recover, shit flew at them, and of course they didn't catch it and were covered in feces. The first stage of production, seagull droppings, eggshells, ash, it all had to be mixed, and he ordered Sergi to work on it as she had many hands. Sergi shouted in anger that she wasn't ready to knead shit with her hands, because she was a cold monarch who wasn't meant for that. Then he said if he didn't want to, he could do an easier job and hang in his place and do nothing. Sergi was furious and waved her swords, scaring the Lord, but they should be strict with them, even though they are fiery. But he is their Lord and will make them do what he needs them to do. The second step of adding water was put on Hartok, who resented the fact that if he called for fog, the stench would become even more unbearable. The Lord silently pointed at the dangling general, and Hartok immediately began summoning mist. Baal tested the softening of the soil by touching it with his hand. The third and final step is to cover the manure with gull feathers, but even this amount will have to ferment for a long time to produce enough manure for his land. He'll have to use all his subordinates, which is bad, but he has to do it as soon as possible. Meanwhile, in the hut of a low-ranking demon sat a father and daughter, who missed her mother, and the father protected his daughter in every possible way. The Lord had come to take him to work, but he didn't want to leave his daughter alone at home because she might be eaten. They had already recruited 20 demons, and there were 10 more to go. Suddenly he noticed the same crying daughter, and remembered how he had killed her before, but for another character, also ordered to stop eating each other or he would kill anyone who dared. He showed his tyranny in front of the people, but he could not do otherwise. He could not achieve results without it, and he could tolerate the damage to his reputation. Demons worked in sweat for the second day in a row and did not understand, even if the soil will become fertile, there is nothing to grow, as suddenly him heard the dialogue Lord and ordered to go with him. When he got to the right place he said he had noticed a pink flower that day, so he would plant it first. But the demon objected and said that they are poisonous and not fit to eat. Then the Lord plucked a flower and said that straight now to test the flower on his daughter, although his generals yesterday gave her a taste of it. He ran home to check on his innocent daughter, but to the surprise of his eyes, his daughter sat eating the fruit of the flower, happy and fed up. Standing behind him, Lord said that a long time ago, people from a distant land found a way to eat it and solve the problem of food shortages. This flower is called a potato, Lord said with a smile. The girl hurriedly thanked Kratos, and immediately a notification came to that the served is happy and he gets 1 experience point. Even though he was a demon lord, he didn't want to be serious all the time. And looking at her with a smile, he said, "Little plebeian, you just need to eat well and grow big." The generals thought he was the ultimate evil who wanted to fatten a child and eat it. Let's go to the heart of the demon domain called Shaven Dantor, which had 4 zones that you can see in the picture. At night the temperature is below freezing and during the day the sun is scorching. This climate is like a hellish highland. So the people of the Andes found a way to eat wild potatoes which in raw form was poisonous, because people have long invented a way to eat inedible or dangerous. Meanwhile the potatoes had already been laid out and the Lord ordered Baal to crush them. He immediately began his part of the work. They froze the root crops for 5 nights, then Baal crushed them, so the poison from the root crops would drain and evaporate. Then after drying they could be stored and subjected to heat treatment and a complete food product was obtained. After finishing the first batch, the Lord ordered the farmers to have lunch. There was not much food, so each of them had 2 potatoes. It would not be enough for the whole army, and the rest of the potatoes would be used for planting. They would multiply their quantity 1,000 times. Everyone took the food in their hands and did not eat it at once because they thought that the Lord intended to poison them. But the father of the girl said that she ate it. The rest of the demons didn't really believe him and looked at his face, not like man who wanted to feed his people. Then that girl's father ate the potato and cried out, "Long live the demon lord." When the demons saw this, they followed his example and began to eat in the belief that the Lord had given real food. After the meal, everyone began to shout his name jubilantly, to which the Lord thought of creating new words of jubilation. Zephyros thought that maybe the Lord could solve the problem of hunger. In the meantime, the system notified him that 50 experience points had been awarded, which was enough to buy himself a small improvement. Zephyros appealed to the demons to return home and tell all his friends that the Lord had found a new way to get food and that he had found a new way to get food. They'll give every demon who picks wild potatoes food stamp. The Lord looked at him and thought that although he was a bore, he was still a smart and clever assistant. Simple demons must find potatoes to plant, and others produce fertilizer. Meanwhile, Lord will fertilize the land with nitrogen. There was enough manure produced. It was necessary to spread it evenly over a large area, but the workers have a norm of 2 potatoes a day. They do not have enough strength for such a task. Meanwhile, the bound general could withstand the torture and didn't need food. When Zephyros came to his throne, he said that he had requested help for farming and sent messengers for them, but no one had yet responded. The Lord thought about the fact that the messengers had died of starvation and he had too few men to fertilize the land. Let's move to the demonic lands of the first star zone, rocks of the dead. The scout said that indeed the Lord is engaged in farming. The head of the first star thought that he does so because he is afraid of him, because the more demon deaths in the war, the stronger he becomes. The Lord of the first star nicknamed the father of the dead Saruktal. It turned out that the messengers did not reach with the message to end the war and start farming because the father of the dead killed them, because he wanted more deaths of demons, which would increase his army and strength, and he would be able to kill Kratos, replacing his status as Demon Lord. Then the father of the dead ordered Ficomir, his assistant, to destroy the fields and everything connected with them. Ficomir came to their land and saw Azurith, and said that after killing the Lord, he would be taken in by Saruthal, as he liked his aggressiveness. Ficomir then ordered the spirits to destroy the fields, so that no one could ever grow anything on them. They found fertilizer and were told to scatter it all over the land, and spray the fertilizer all over the area so that they could no longer collect it, so that they are mixed with the earth and buried deep. Apparently they were far from farming, or they would have known what they were doing better for the Demon Lord. Meanwhile, the Lord was unsuspectingly solving the issue of fertilizer distribution throughout the territory and could not find a solution, and the solution came by itself when he was not even asked. Azurat hanging on the pole did not say anything to them and did not understand their actions, what they wanted to do. The spirits worked in sweat and buried the fertilizer deeper, but the sun was already rising, which killed the spirits. The father of the dead let a tear fall from his slain warriors and thought about what Kratos would say to that now. Meanwhile, Kratos stood by the harvested potato fruit, and it needed 3 or 4 weeks of storing like this at 4 degrees. Then it needed to move them to a dark and warm place. He'd have Sergei and Hartok do it, but they're so aggressive now that he couldn't handle both of them if they attack. Then he decided to call the workers to squat to raise the temperature in the barn, but they were too weak and tired. Then Kratos decided to go further to saturate the soil with nitrogen, but when he came to the place he saw that the whole field was plowed, and the air smelled of fertilizer, which means that the land was ready for sowing. Kratos looked at everything that was happening with amazement, and the demon behind the tree smiled snidely, thinking that everything went according to plan. Baal stumbled upon the demon and brought him to the Lord. Kratos recognized him and asked what he was doing here and immediately punched him in the face. Zephyros resented the fact that he had hit him at once, but Lord thought that Ficomir was hiding some information from him, so he hit him. Ficomir kept silent like a gorilla and received 1,000 blows for it. Kratos ran out of stamina and then he added it to himself through the system and continued to attack Ficomir, from which he began to speak. As the day wore on, he confessed and told the whole plan of the father of the dead, and that the death of the messengers was on his hands. Zephyros suggested killing the Lord of the first star, Seraphil, as it would send a warning to those who were unhappy with the canceling of the offensive on human lands. The Lord agreed with Zephyros since he would mess up all the farming plans, but to kill him is not so easy. In the game, Seraphil chases you throughout the zone of the first star and can turn into an intangible spirit. The whole passage consisted of a deadly game of hide and seek with him. And then the Lord came up with the idea that if he wanted to finish him off, he had to get him out of the first star zone. Meanwhile, the little girl came to Azurat and thanked him, because thanks to his sacrifice, they would have a harvest. But Azurat didn't like it and shouted that he would kill the girl and Kratos as soon as he got out of here. Suddenly he heard a joyous cheering nearby. Looking closer, he saw the inscription, "Congratulations, the second lightning rod in the office," and he thought he could be free and not grilled like a chicken for days on end. But there were just 2 of them, and Kratos started to enrich the soil with nitrogen again, but twice as efficiently. He struck them with blow after blow, and meanwhile the father of the dead watched them through the magic orb and became furious when he saw his right hand imprisoned. What's in store for us in the next installments? Will he be able to reach the maximum level and survive in this world? Fears were ripped through the air as the demon lord unleashed his power. Crackling with fiery energy, the skeletal warrior recoiled, caught in the blast. His anguished cries echoing, a spectral being, its eyes blazing with an icy light, commanded the assault to cease, concerned for the wraith's well-being. The demon lord, enraged, continued his onslaught, unheeding the plea. Another agonized cry escaped the skeletal warrior as the attack connected. The dark-haired demon's gaze sharpened, his expression a mixture of suspicion and calculation, observing the scene unfold. High above, a reconnaissance wraith, perched on a gnarled branch, clutched a glowing orb, silently monitoring the escalating conflict. The demon lord, eyes blazing with fury, threatened dire consequences for anyone who dared to sabotage his harvest. Under a scorching sun, a small, purple-haired child diligently worked a tiny shovel in the parched earth. A shadowy figure, possibly a demon, loomed over the child, silently observing their efforts. The figure reached down and took the shovel from the child's grasp. Startled, the child looked up at the imposing demon with a nervous expression. Trying to explain, the child stammered, revealing that they were only trying to help with the harvest while the adults were busy farming. A towering, skeletal demon mocked a smaller, dark-haired demon for his seemingly useless efforts. The smaller demon, however, was praised by a young girl with purple hair for plowing the field and inadvertently acting as a lightning rod. The skeletal demon, clearly smitten with the girl, basked in her appreciation. Another dark-haired demon scoffed at the idea of farming in the barren wasteland, doubting the potato crop would ever sprout. He ominously warned of impending starvation for everyone. Ignoring his pessimism, the girl excitedly ran off with a sprouted potato, thanking it profusely. The skeptical demon, intrigued, called after her. With a sinister smirk, he pondered the potential of a low-ranking demon. A crumbling fortress stood silhouetted against a fiery sunset, hinting at impending conflict. Within a grand hall, two figures, one cloaked in darkness, the other more subtly dressed, discussed the Demon King's potentially flawed plan. The dark figure, the Demon Lord himself, revealed his chilling strategy to lure out his true target by systematically eliminating any and all rescuers sent to save the captured Fikimir. Under the pale moonlight, two monstrous figures, one wielding a giant axe, the other a parasol, stood guard, ready to carry out their lord's brutal command. A giant raven soared through the night, carrying a small figure back to the Demon Lord. A sign of the trap being sprung, the Demon Lord, his face grim, watched the raven's approach, calculating his next move. Seated in a meditative pose, radiating an ethereal glow, a wise, old being contemplated the Demon Lord's foolishness, aware of his true objective hidden beneath the surface of the conflict. The ancient being mused that the Demon Lord's single-minded focus on his goal blinds him to the bigger picture, even at the cost of Fikimir's safety. Under the eerie glow of the moon, a sinister plot to ruin the harvest was set in motion. Ghostly crop wraiths were unleashed, their chilling howls echoing through the night as they were commanded to destroy the potato crops. Sweeping across the fields like a spectral tide, they began their destructive work. Meanwhile, a dark figure observed the unfolding chaos, a knowing smirk playing on their lips, anticipating this very event. Their prediction proved correct as the crop wraiths continued their rampage, confirming the dark figure's calculated scheme. A menacing figure, cloaked and horned, loomed over a railing, a sinister welcome echoing from his lips, recalling his first chilling encounter with these ethereal, lizard-like creatures. He shuddered, remembering the despair that gripped him. He recognized them as the second elite force of Saruthal, their spectral forms swarming ominously. A warrior, clad in light armor and wielding a sword, bravely faced the spectral horde. The warrior knew the true danger of these creatures lay in their touch, which brought rapid aging. One of the creatures latched onto the warrior, its eerie form enveloping him in a pinkish glow. The warrior crying out in agony as he felt the unnatural effects take hold. A menacing figure with wild hair grinned, devising a plan to eliminate his foes. The dark-haired Demon Lord declared his intent to strike, a sinister glint in his eyes. Electricity crackled around a figure, clutching their chest in apparent pain as they realized a trick. Ghostly figures materialized, their forms shimmering with an eerie light. The Demon Lord's eyes widened in terror as he recognized the true danger. He stared in horror at a bloodstain, a chilling reminder of a past victim. Kratos unleashed his phase 2 ability, a surge of power emanating from his body. Blinding golden energy crackled around him, intensifying with a terrifying roar. The raw power ripped through the surroundings, leaving scorched marks on the wooden structures. Finally, the Demon Lord unleashed a wide-area bloody strike, engulfing everything in a devastating golden explosion. The Demon Lord roared, unleashing his farm guards for a physical assault. The guards sprang into action, their mundane appearance belying their formidable strength as they clashed with spectral wraiths. Another wave of guards attacked, wielding shovels and picks with deadly precision against the ethereal foes. The Demon Lord observed the battle, a flicker of pride in his eyes as he realized his ruthless tactics were proving effective. He pondered, a smirk playing on his lips, as a sense of belonging washed over him in this chaotic world. The Demon Lord, observing a spectral figure, declared his intent to personally deal with any remaining wraiths. A burst of golden energy erupted, seemingly striking the spectral figure. The demon lord, momentarily confused, found himself standing before a pile of something. A small, purple-haired figure emerged from the pile, startled and disoriented. The purple-haired individual, now realizing the situation, expressed shock and disbelief. A spectral, menacing form materialized nearby. A muscular, horned demon cried out in alarm, seemingly recognizing the spectral threat. A shadowy figure, possibly a demon, scowled, realizing their current predicament. The demon lord, with a manic grin, launched himself into action, determined to eliminate the escaping wraiths. Frustrated by the distance, he wondered how to strike from so far away. With a desperate heave, he hurled a small, seemingly insignificant object. The ethereal wraith shrieked as the projectile made contact, its form dissolving into a harmless, watery substance. Another dark figure watched, incredulous at the demon lord's seemingly foolish tactic. A seed-like object spun rapidly, enveloped in a pinkish aura. The demon lord, eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and anticipation, watched intently. A strange, fleshy blob with 3 dark spots plopped down with a soft sound, landing near a small, sprouted plant. A young, purple-haired demon girl with a flower in her hair peeked out from behind a pile of dirt, observing the blob curiously. Wispy blue streams of energy, seemingly emanating from the blob, rose towards the sky. The demon lord, realizing what he was seeing, muttered in disbelief, his gaze fixed on a tiny green sprout emerging from the seed. Overcome with a sudden emotion, perhaps awe or shock, the demon lord's eyes widened. A single red glint reflecting the intensity of his feelings. A mysterious device spun, accelerating the biological clock of the potatoes, causing them to age rapidly. The demon lord effortlessly lifted a small figure, seemingly pleased with the results, praising them with a sinister grin. Startled by a sudden noise, the small figure looked up in fear as the demon lord roared with excitement. Addressing his farm guards, the demon lord commanded them to abandon their previous plan of luring Saruthal out. He clenched his fist around a potato, declaring a new offensive strategy, his eyes burning with a ferocious intensity. A bound figure, seemingly a demon, awoke in a desolate wasteland, questioning his existence and purpose. Blinded by the radiant sun, he expressed gratitude for the simple sensation of its warmth, a stark contrast to his dire situation. A pang of hunger reminded him of his persistent will to live, despite his current predicament. A small, purple-haired demon excitedly presented Lord Azuret with a bowl brimming with chuno, a bounty resulting from his advice about potato sprouts. Lord Kredos, with a determined gaze, rallied a troop of farmer soldiers to cultivate even more potatoes. Driven by a newfound agricultural ambition, the demon lord, starved and ravenous, roared at the sight of food. A small, purple-haired figure offered him a morsel, seemingly innocent. With a battle cry, the figure swung a large weapon, striking the bound captive offered as a meal. The demon, momentarily stunned, watched the captive's desperate plea. He savored the offered food, a cruel glint in his eye. Another blow landed, and the captive's pain cry echoed as bits of something flew through the air. The demon lord devoured the offered pieces, relishing the taste with chilling satisfaction. A quiet contemplation followed, his eyes closed as he savored the lingering flavor. The demon lord's health increased, a sign of his army's satisfaction after a hearty meal. He pondered the new recruits, recognizing one familiar face among them. Curious about the second recruit's identity, another demon chimed in, eager for any boost to their power. The demon lord, a sly glint in his eye, decided to save this new strength for a future raid. He rallied his farmer corps, a ragtag bunch of enthusiastic demons, to advance. They charged forward, fueled by the promise of a bountiful harvest. Facing a precarious bridge leading to a mysterious cave, a nervous demon urgently commanded to cut it off. With a sinister laugh, the attacker destroyed the bridge, leaving their opponents stranded. The dark figure plummeted into the chasm below. A surprised gasp echoing upwards from the depths, the fallen figure emerged, seemingly unfazed, causing the attacker to erupt in mocking laughter at their perceived foolishness. The onlookers watched in stunned silence as the figure gracefully ascended the cliff face, defying the expectations of their gloating enemy. 2 shadowy figures expressed their shock and disbelief at the unexpected turn of events, their faces contorted in comical dismay. Finally, the dark figure landed softly on the ground, their back turned to the camera, leaving an air of mystery and anticipation. A dark-haired woman recoiled in disgust, finding something utterly repulsive. The demon lord, cloaked in dark attire, sneered with malicious satisfaction as his plan seemed to unfold perfectly. His inner monologue revealed his scheme to terrify the food wraiths with potatoes. Even as he acknowledged his own vulnerability, a bewildered man with glasses and horns was startled by a looming, monstrous figure. The demon lord, consumed by a sinister glee, directed the food wraiths towards their lone, defenseless target. The monstrous wraiths surged forward, eager to claim even a small victory by merely touching their prey. A powerful force erupted, shaking the very foundations of the structure. With a fierce cry, the dark figure unleashed a secret technique, his eyes burning with an eerie red glow. He vanished in a blur, leaving ghostly afterimages in his wake, as if defying the laws of physics. Astonished, his pursuers scrambled to react, their eyes wide with disbelief at his uncanny maneuver. Reappearing above them, the demon lord hung, suspended momentarily, a smirk playing on his lips. They lunged upwards, desperate to seize him, the urgency of their mission clear in their strained faces. But just as quickly as he had appeared, he dissolved into thin air, leaving them grasping at empty space. Stunned silence followed. The sudden disappearance of the demon lord, leaving them in awestruck confusion. Exasperated, the demon lord, surrounded by glowing spectral figures, declared this was the 19th attempt at this frustrating endeavor. Having explored every inch of the map, he devised a plan to consolidate all enemy spawn points into a single location. A surge of ethereal forms coalesced around him as he began to execute his scheme. Someone taunted him, assuming he was exhausted and nearing defeat, even with his demonic powers. With a steely glint in his eye, he retorted that he was not merely a demon lord, but a seasoned veteran player. He roared a command, his voice filled with determination and power, to bring his plan to fruition. With a fierce command, he urged the growth of something unseen. A multitude of peculiar, plant-like creatures sprang forth, filling the air. The demon lord, cloaked in darkness and crimson, surveyed his burgeoning harvest with an air of satisfaction. A bespectacled man reflected on his initial doubts, now replaced by awe at the demon lord's foresight. The demon lord issued instructions to his subordinate, Zephyros, assigning him a seemingly pointless task involving an abandoned aqueduct and a map. Zephyros listened intently as the demon lord revealed a hidden truth about the location. A secret shortcut. The demon lord's sinister grin hinted at a deeper, more cunning plan unfolding. After a harrowing escape, the demon lord surveyed a newly discovered area. A knight, intrigued by the detailed yet empty space, cautiously approached a strange passage. Testing the seemingly impassable barrier, the knight was surprised to find it yielded. Entering the mysterious passage, the knight discovered the fabled elixir of metamorphosis, recalling his master's command to seize it if found. The knight, holding the glowing elixir, realized its potential to transform. The demon lord observed his followers, now possessing a strange sprout, realizing its potential for planning and growth. Overjoyed, a demon, clutching a bowl of food, eagerly anticipates a feast with his companion. A concerned observer notes the demon's gaunt appearance, a testament to past hunger. An elderly woman gently reassures the famished demon, promising a full dinner soon. A rumbling sound intensifies, heralding an ominous presence. A sinister figure emerges from the shadows, their eyes glowing with a menacing hunger of their own, threatening anyone who dares to interfere with their long-awaited meal. The demon lord, radiating menacing energy, declared imminent destruction. Alerted by the commotion, a figure called out to the demon lord from the shadows. A red-haired, muscular demon, acknowledging Saruthal's strength, offered his assistance. The demon lord, however, dismissed the offer, relegating the demon to a menial task. The demon's face darkened as he realized he was being given the grunt work. Finally, in a frozen realm, a cloaked figure invoked the power of a mighty ice spirit. Pleading for troops and increased power, the dark-haired figure descended with a furious, blurring speed, landing amidst a shower of debris. A startled voice questioned his sudden appearance, demanding to know how he'd found this place. The newcomer dismissed the question with a chillingly nonchalant reply. A sinister grin spread across the demon lord's face as he declared his intent to eradicate those he deemed pest. A glowing blue gem pulsed with power, seemingly guarded by a cloaked figure. The demon lord, with a scornful expression, mocked his foolish opponent, Kratos, for challenging him alone, unleashing a surge of turquoise energy. The demon lord declared his true power. Kratos, purple-haired and sharp-featured, considered the display of power, already having witnessed it many times. Finally, a lighter-haired warrior narrated his own exploits, explaining how he had eliminated countless cliff mobs while pursuing a fleeing Saruthal. Cornered, the fleeing figure burst into a hidden chamber where a mystical, glowing ice artifact pulsates with an eerie energy. It's revealed to be a terrifying relic created by an ancient dragon, its icy aura trapping restless spirits. The dark-clad figure attempts to harness the artifact's power, summoning spectral allies. But just as the swirling vortex of power intensifies, a paladin arrives, his armor gleaming, ready for a final showdown. The demon lord, with a chilling smirk, unleashes his true power, acknowledging the paladin's strength before hinting at a darker purpose. A powerful, white-haired demon exuded confidence, certain of his impending victory. It was revealed that his power stemmed from perfectly mimicking his opponent's peak stats. A tense battle unfolded. The demon's copied strength and agility making him a formidable opponent. Every move a deadly threat. However, a dark-haired, sharp-eyed figure watching the battle realized the copied stats belonged to the current Demon King, Kratos, whose power had waned. A sinister grin spread across the dark-haired figure's face, realizing the advantage this presented. The white-haired demon, caught off guard, cried out in pain as he was struck. A game interface flashed, offering stat upgrades in exchange for HP. The Demon Lord invested some health points to boost his dexterity. A swift decision reflected in the on-screen stats. With a battle cry, he delivered a powerful blow, the impact echoing through the panels. His strength surged as he poured more health into enhancing his physical power. The change instantly registering in the game-like interface. Fist collided with a bone-jarring crunch, radiating lines of force. Agony gripped the pale-skinned demon as he clutched his injured hand. Bewildered by his opponent's seemingly unscathed state, observing the scene, the dark-haired Demon Lord questioned with a mix of curiosity and suspicion how the other could remain unaffected by the brutal exchange. The Demon Lord mused that even farming required brains, a cunning glint in his eyes. He grimaced, bracing himself as he seemingly sacrificed health to bolster his magical and mental prowess. With a surge of newfound power, the Demon Lord unleashed a devastating golden attack. His white-haired adversary roared in defiance, struck by the potent blast. The enemy, engulfed in the golden energy, recoiled in agony as the attack took hold. Finally, the foe, now a grotesque, melting form, shrieked in defeat as the Demon Lord's magic overwhelmed it. The Demon Lord, clad in dark robes, stood amidst a desolate landscape, a strange, glowing object dissolving at his feet. A blue screen materialized before him, displaying a stat upgrade notification. His power had surged. Intrigued, he pondered a newly unlocked skill, a farmer's throne. The screen then shifted, showcasing a grand throne adorned with farming tools, which piqued the Demon Lord's interest in new gear. The glowing object at his feet reappeared, prompting a curious glance. A surge of energy erupted from below, catching him off guard. A menacing voice echoed, challenging his assumptions. A victory. The Demon Lord, with a glint of red in his eyes, dismissed the notion with a simple nope. He unleashed his true form. A terrifying ancient evil dragon, proclaiming its power. A witness, awestruck, remarked on the sheer power emanating from the dragon. Another character, seemingly unfazed, pointed out that this was merely the boss before the final area. With a cocky grin, the unfazed challenger revealed he had already cleared the final boss zone, challenging the Demon Lord. A monstrous, pale creature loomed, its fury palpable as it accused someone of interfering with their farming. A flurry of motion followed, with smaller figures being tossed aside by the powerful creature as it roared. Good harvest. The creature then unleashed its wrath upon a terrified figure who pleaded for mercy. Observing the scene, the dark-haired, pointed-eared Demon Lord contemplated the ease with which he could defeat the creature, yet hesitated, finding the act of personally killing it distasteful. He mused on finding a more efficient, less hands-on approach to subduing the beast. Suddenly, a notification blinked into existence, signifying the unlocking of a new skill. Summon Farmer's Throne. With the creature's health critically low, a powerful voice commanded the summoning of the Farmer's Throne. A magnificent, intricate throne materialized amidst a swirling, ethereal light. It descended gracefully, radiating an otherworldly aura. A white dragon-like creature watched the throne's descent with anticipation. A dark, imposing figure, likely the Demon Lord, reacted with a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in expression. Confused, the Demon Lord glances around as the throne settles, revealing several figures materializing around it. The onlookers, seemingly impressed by the Demon Lord's ruthless efficiency in battle, erupted in boisterous cheers and praise, mimicking his brutal final blow. The Demon Lord, muscles rippling, triumphantly declared his success to his followers. Unimpressed, a voice echoed a dismissive retort from the shadows, ignoring the naysayer. The Demon Lord roared with delight, raising a fist in victory. A bewildered figure looked up, startled by a floating specter who calmly proclaimed their ascension. Below, meticulously plowed fields stretched out under the moonlight, the promise of a bountiful harvest evident in the emerging potato sprouts. Finally, the remnants of a destroyed fortress lay scattered, a testament to the Demon Lord's eradication of any threats to his precious crop. The Demon Lord, muscles bulging, rallied his goblin underlings for the momentous task of potato planting. A glowing blue crystal materialized, pulsing with an otherworldly energy, prompting confusion from the Demon Lord. A game-like notification flashed, declaring his repeated failures in a mission against a foe named Saruthal. He pondered, suspecting he had somehow resumed from a previous save point. Another notification appeared, announcing a hidden event triggered by his perseverance. The crystal vibrated intensely, icy mist swirling around it as something ancient stirred within. A final image of the crystal reveals a figure trapped within, hinting at a powerful being awakened. The demon lord, clad in dark armor, stared down in astonishment at a glowing, icy prism. Inside the prism, a small blue dragon-like creature squirmed, seemingly distressed, intrigued. The demon lord leaned closer, wondering about the nature of this unexpected discovery. His surprise quickly turned to recognition, and a single exclamation escaped his lips. He called the little dragon's name, his voice filled with an odd mix of fondness and disbelief. The little dragon, now seemingly happy, popped its head out of the prism and greeted him cheerfully. A small light blue dragon, T-Bone, emerged from his egg into a dark, frightening world. A dark figure, the demon lord, descended from the shadows, his gaze fixed on the newborn dragon, curious. The little dragon wondered about the nature of the creature before him. The demon lord gently scooped up T-Bone, a thoughtful expression on his face. The relieved dragon realized that the demon lord was his father, who had finally found him. The demon lord's stern features softened as he gazed at T-Bone, marveling at his cuteness. Overcome with emotion, the little dragon trembled, addressing the demon lord as dad with uncertainty. A horde of excited creatures clamored to devour a freshly harvested bounty. A small blue dragon-like creature, held securely by a large, imposing figure, also expressed its eagerness to partake in the feast. The large figure, likely the demon lord, bellowed instructions to the eager crowd, emphasizing the importance of proper cultivation for a greater yield. The little blue dragon, misunderstanding the situation, feared it was about to be eaten by its daddy. The demon lord, looking up in surprise, seemed to just realize the little dragon's distress. Finally, the demon lord looked out over a field, now filled with thriving potato sprouts, and praised his subjects for their successful harvest. A small light blue dragon sensed the warm energy emanating from a group of people. Cradled in someone's arms, the dragon decided these creatures weren't scary at all. The scene shifted to a majestic castle against a vibrant sunset sky. Back inside a dimly lit room, the little dragon shivered, seemingly sensing a presence. Suddenly, a menacing figure, possibly a demon lord with sharp horns and dark robes, appeared, causing the dragon to recoil in fear. A small, anxious dragon worried about its future meals. The demon lord fretted, realizing the lack of gemstones to feed the dragon. A subordinate reported to the demon lord, bringing news of difficulties. He explained the struggle to build ridges for planting due to the rocky terrain. The field intended for crops was being prepared, but the soil wasn't cooperating. Pure soil was needed, but rocks kept surfacing, breaking tools and slowing progress. Exhausted workers complained about their back-breaking labor. The little dragon, oblivious to the toil, breathed innocently. The demon lord, holding a small, worried-looking dragon creature, lamented that the land before him resembled a coal mine, not a field. He fretted over the slow progress of clearing the rocks, and the rapidly dwindling rewards for the workers. He grumbled that even reinforcements wouldn't solve the overwhelming task. Exasperated, the demon lord wished he could summon a magical, familiar, like a rock-clearing wombat, to ease his burden. A young girl with purple hair and golden eyes diligently chipped away at the rocky ground. Observed by the demon lord, his expression shifting to one of steely determination. She continued her work, unaware of his gaze, as the demon lord watched, focused on the task. Finally, accepting his leadership role, the demon lord resolved to find a solution to this latest obstacle, preparing to unleash his razor winds upon the unforgiving landscape. A swirling vortex of dust and debris materialized in the barren wasteland. The demon lord's face contorted in a grimace of sudden realization, as he remembered a crucial detail about the hazardous, randomly occurring razor winds. Another character, seemingly a knight judging by his armor and sword, stood with his back to the approaching danger, oblivious to the imminent threat. The demon lord frantically warned the others about the deadly winds, urging them to find shelter. He yelled, directing them towards the rocks as the wind picked up speed and intensity. A group of figures scrambled for cover as a powerful gust of wind swept across the barren landscape. The demon lord, clutching a small blue creature, braced himself against the fierce wind. Realizing the in-game experience was nothing compared to this reality, he identified the phenomenon as a natural disaster, the bane of all farming. As the demon lord and his companions ran, a young girl with purple hair and pointed ears fearlessly charged towards the storm. The demon lord, startled, recognized her. Gritting his teeth in annoyance, he yelled a warning, desperately calling out for his flute as the girl flung herself into the heart of the chaos. Another figure, caught in the tumult, also cried out in alarm as the girl's reckless actions threatened to disrupt their plans. The demon lord, a fierce figure with dark hair and horns, lunged forward, vowing to protect someone and eliminate any pursuers. A concerned voice warned him of the imminent danger, but the demon lord, acknowledging the risk, was determined to proceed. He snarled, pushing past another who tried to dissuade him, his focus unwavering on his goal: farming. He scooped up a small figure clinging to a wooden pole as he spun, caught in a fierce whirlwind. With a grim realization, the demon lord declared that farming, and indeed life itself, is a constant battle. He barked at the small person clinging to the pole to move as he prepared to face whatever awaited him. A dark figure kicked a bound, struggling demon across the floor. The bound demon grunted in pain as he slid across the ground. With a savage grin, the captor taunted the demon about the unbreakable nature of his bonds. The demon struggled fiercely, his eyes burning with fury and defiance. Straining against the restraints, the dark figure warned the demon that escape was impossible. Horrified, another figure, presumably an ally of the captured demon, watched the brutal scene unfold, their face contorted in a silent scream. A small light blue dragon-like creature observed a figure, seemingly their father, and worriedly noted his lack of strength. With a sudden burst of speed, a dark cloaked figure, presumably the demon lord, rushed forward, carrying a crucified person on a wooden cross. The demon lord roared in fury, his face contorted with rage and blood splattered across his cheek. He continued his desperate sprint, the wind whipping his cloak dramatically, determined to save the person he carried. The little dragon, observing the frantic rescue, marveled at the demon lord's selflessness. He was surprised that the demon lord would go to such lengths to help others despite his perceived weakness. The demon lord, bloodied and defiant, roared in pain as a blow landed. He crashed to the ground, his dark robe swirling around him in the dusty aftermath. A small, dragon-like creature cried out, "My daddy," as a powerful, glowing fist struck it. The little dragon tumbled through the air, someone proclaiming it a kind creature. The swirling chaos continued, dust and debris obscuring the unfolding battle. A small, light-colored dragon struggled against powerful, razor-sharp winds. Seemingly losing altitude, a surge of cold energy erupted, visibly disrupting the wind currents. The young dragon, overwhelmed by the sudden shift in air pressure, plummeted downwards. Observing the dragon's fall, a dark-haired figure marked with blood realized the attack was too brutal for such a young creature. The dragon continued its dizzying descent, the sound of rushing wind echoing around it. The figure, face streaked with crimson, watched with a mixture of concern and apprehension. A swirling vortex of power erupted, tinged with an ominous red hue. Caught in the chaotic blast, the demon lord, a horned figure in dark attire, was flung back alongside a small, winged creature and two powerful-looking warriors, one with blue hair and overalls, the other wielding a spear and sporting a wild mane of red hair. Under a moonlit sky, a towering castle stood amongst jagged, snow-capped peaks. Inside, a shadowed figure lurked, observing a seemingly unconscious form on a bed. Two figures, one in armor and another in a suit, walked briskly through the castle corridors. The armored figure, with a determined gaze, paused, the faint glow of their eyes hinting at a hidden agenda. The suited figure, face partially obscured, listened intently as the armored one plotted to overthrow the demon lord and seize power. A sly grin spread across the suited figure's face as they agreed to a temporary alliance, their true motives cloaked in shadows. The pair continued their swift march through the castle, their footsteps echoing their ambition. An imposing room lay ahead, the doorway framing a glimpse of the demon lord's chamber. A dark-suited figure, wreathed in shadowy energy, lunged at a pale, armored warrior, their blades clashing. Startled, a horned figure awoke to witness the fight, their expression shifting from confusion to alarm. With a snarl of rage, the horned figure, revealed as a demon, bared their fangs at the unfolding betrayal. Realizing their advantage, the pale warrior urged their companion to seize the opportunity. The warrior, swift and agile, parried the dark figure's attack with a glint of steel. Just as the two prepared to strike, two powerful figures, one with a massive axe, the other cloaked in shadows, appeared, their voices booming with authority. Demanding an explanation, a red-haired demon warned against disturbing the demon lord's sleep. Another demon, shocked by the lord's ferocious sleeping face, questioned if that was truly restful. The red-haired demon threatened repercussions for anyone who dared wake their leader. A suited demon expressed annoyance at the muscle-headed demon's protectiveness, and questioned another cloaked demon's loyalty to their farming demon lord. The cloaked demon explained his allegiance was born from a life debt, promising to side with them next time. A masked figure challenged the group's understanding of the precariousness of their situation, pointing out the potential for crop failure. and starvation stemming from their potato planting endeavors. Unfazed, a bandaged individual simply accepted it as inevitable. Finally, a young demon girl diligently tilled the soil, while a close-up emphasized the grip on a farming tool, illustrating the hard work being put into the demon lord's agricultural vision. Driven by hunger, the cloaked figure declared his grim motivation. A stern-faced man with an eye patch informed someone that their life was on the line. Seemingly unfazed, a masked individual retorted with a challenge, hinting at future regrets for their adversaries. A tense silence hung in the air, broken only by a heavy yawn. The red-skinned, muscular figure announced the demon lord's awakening. A blue-skinned demon, Asura, was addressed with a mixture of surprise and accusation. Asura casually brushed off the accusation, claiming he was merely repaying a debt. Another, unseen character expressed their bewilderment at Asura's nonchalant behavior, comparing him to a living lightning rod. The final panel zoomed in on a terrifying, fang face, radiating pure rage and menace as it roared. The hooded figure reappeared, his expression hardening with grim determination. A mighty tremor shook the ground, signaling impending doom. The red-haired demon urged his crew to clear the rubble, time being of the essence. Satisfied, he noted the rocks were almost gone, assuming Zephyros was diligently stacking them. A perplexed Zephyros, bandaged and concerned, reacted to an unseen question. He gestured towards a distant location, cryptically revealing where the rocks had been moved. A hint of mischief in his expression, the elegantly dressed man, seemingly in charge, addressed Zephyros, informing him that the demon lord had awakened. Zephyros calmly pointed towards a pile in the distance, indicating where the rocks had been relocated, while the demon lord looked on impassively. A small, light blue dragon was swept away by a powerful gust of wind, struggling against the force. The little dragon, seemingly unfazed, devoured something midair, declaring he'd consumed everything and would grow stronger. He noticed something and called out, gulping as a shadowy figure loomed before him. The little dragon cried out for his father, recognizing the newcomer, the imposing figure. A demon lord with sharp fangs and glowing red eyes scooped up the tiny dragon, his voice filled with boisterous affection. Razor winds are a rare, destructive force that takes time to gather momentum. A strategic plan is hatched. Aerial surveillance and timely ice magic could thwart the impending disaster. Despite the lack of weather forecasting, the demon lord and his advisor knew they had to act. Aware of the risks, the bespectacled advisor informed the demon lord that the fields were ripe, and the potatoes needed attention. Despite dwindling supplies of preserved potatoes, the demon lord declared there was no need to make more, citing natural disasters and cost as the bane of farming. The demon lord grimly acknowledged these obstacles as walls they must overcome. An opulent, empty hall resonates with a faint chill. A blonde-haired, armored figure sits warily, exhaling a sigh of relief. The armored figure, removing a helmet, recoils with disgust at the lingering stench of manure clinging to them. The stench of manure, a constant reminder of farm work, stubbornly refuses to fade even after days away from the fields. A pale-skinned elf urgently knocked on the demon lord's door, pleading for help. The demon lord, annoyed, refused to open the door, claiming to have nothing to discuss. Desperate, the elf insisted on entering, prompting the demon lord to reiterate their refusal. The elf then burst through the door, startling a dark-haired person inside. A woman in dark clothing gasped in shock at the elf's sudden intrusion. Another figure, cloaked and masked, entered the room stealthily, adding to the chaotic scene. The pale elf, now bewildered, questioned the unexpected turn of events. The dark-haired demon lord, head bowed, confessed his utter helplessness without. Sergi, the fair-haired elf, looked skeptical, a blush creeping up her cheeks as the demon lord dramatically pledged to kneel if it would secure her aid. His intense gaze fixed on her, he declared his urgent need for her sharp blade. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Sergi's face as she hesitantly agreed to hear him out. She struck a theatrical pose, her sudden shift in demeanor baffling the demon lord, who was taken aback by the unexpected turn of events. Other elves nearby shared his bewilderment, whispering about her strange behavior. Sergi, her face now serious, commanded the demon lord to cut potatoes in half for planning. The masked figure, seemingly calm and collected, observed something off-panel. A surge of red-hot fury consumed the elven warrior, her face contorted in rage at the demon lord's deception.